Hey friends, the following video will be part of the workshop that was recorded for my school community, but you can watch it as well. And that will be about onboarding. So this is onboarding that I created for one of my applications, and this onboarding flow actually increased my sales for about 20%, which is quite a lot. And yeah, that's kind of quite simple. Few steps, you're going through training program, generation, and so on. And yeah, then you get Paywall. And this onboarding flow basically increased my Paywall conversion significantly. I built new app last week as well. So I created this onboarding flow, whatever. Basically, what tool did I use for those? I used this Screensdesign. And Screensdesign basically is this nice application where you can see onboarding flows, basically all the animations that you have in applications and so on, and many more. For my school community, we had in the classroom, we had workshop with founder. And basically, discussion was about onboarding flows, what to include in onboarding flows, what are errors in onboarding flows, and so on.
Yeah, we started building Screensdesign actually in January of 2024. And the reason why is because we come from the subscription app space in iOS subscriptions. And we were checking so many things about other players in the industry who were the new guys who were coming up with cool ideas for onboarding, cool ideas for paywalls. But even the 1 terabyte space on the iPhone was going away quickly. And once you are onboarded, you don't see the onboardings anymore. So it was quite a mess, and in the back of our mind, it started to form the thought of, okay, what if we build like a tool just for ourselves, where we put these onboardings, and then we just filter and search. And then 1 year and 4 months later, here we are with Screensdesign. We just launched around a month ago, soft launched. Because we're getting good feedback from many of the bosses in the industry, like Ivars, for example. And yeah, man, the tool is getting a lot of attention, and I think we're doing a great service for the industry, for Apple developers, Apple marketers, and designers as well. And well, maybe I show it. I show what I'm talking about. Maybe I share the screen.
Sure, share the screen and show us. And
yeah.
I was
I think you
I was
see it,
using
yeah?
before. Yeah, we see your screen. That's perfect. And I was using Mobin before, and
Yeah.
it feels that you can see designs there as well. But first thing that why I like this product and I was happy to jump on it. You have more apps here.
We have a lot more apps.
Even you are younger product, you have much more apps here, and also I like that you have this video as well, because Mobin that is just static shots, but in your tool, basically how I was working with Mobin, when I was looking on onboarding flow, I was looking, okay, I see nice screenshots, but then I was going to the App Store and downloading the app to see how the onboarding works. But in your tool, we can see the onboarding videos. That's what I like the best.
That's correct.
Please go forward. Show us how it works.
That's correct. Not only we have the screens, but as you can see here, we have the video, so people can watch animations and how actually interaction is done. It's I think it's the future of what is really needed, because many times with static screens are needed for designers, but they don't really work that well for anyone else who actually has to understand what is really going on. And because in apps, as I'm sure you know, for example, there are many times that the X for the soft paywall, for example, appears after some seconds, and so you don't see this from a static screenshot, right? Because maybe you see nothing here and say, okay, how do people exit the soft paywall, if it is a soft paywall, and if not, how it works. So yeah, thank you for that, Ivars. I was I'm super happy that you've seen what we've done with the product, and and again, as I was saying before, onboarding flows and paywalls are truly critical in optimizing revenue and profitability for subscription apps, because that's what people see at first, and that's where people have an understanding of the value of the app, and at the end of the day they activate trials, which is usually the most important things. Yes, of
Yeah.
course there are lifetime subscription, or there are apps that are fully free, but many times when you optimize the onboarding and paywall, this is where we have seen that the dramatic changes in the life of an app can truly happen, because people understand it better, because people become more interested in what the app is about, and because the value is clearly delivered. Well, we
Yeah.
come from the same space. We had an app ourselves. It was called Boost Up Social. We scaled it up to 100K MRR, and we recently exited it 3 months ago for 7 figures. So we know the space pretty well. We know the hardships, and that's why we built this tool initially. And we felt it was a fresh challenge to take to create this library, which is a little bit like dribble and mobbing, but we feel for the modern age. And yeah, we're super happy with the initial feedback. We have a lot of people who are subscribing, and we also have a pretty generous free tier. Like, you can just go to screensdesign.com, and there are 75 apps that do not require any type of account or anything like that. And then clearly, in order to use, for example, the search or
Yeah,
check all the apps,
that
all
free tier.
1,700 apps.
Yeah, that free tier is quite good as well. You don't even need to jump on the kind of paid version to use it for research. But
Yeah.
I would like to, it could be great if you can first probably show how you would use your application for research, and then maybe
Yeah.
highlight what are the most important parts, maybe in some app example, what are the most important parts in onboarding, and what almost every app should have, and maybe some highlights what should not be in onboarding. And then we
Absolutely.
can go to the, maybe we will have questions and go to the Q&A part, and we can ask basically direct questions about kind of our onboarding
That's cool.
flows, or about product itself, and so on. That could give us the source for discussion.
So the way I would use Screensdesign myself is, first of all, there are two ways. So number one question would be: do I already have an app that that I have an idea for, that I'm designing, that I'm working on, that I already have, but I wanted to bring it to the next level? Then, if so, this app is probably inside a category, right? So maybe it's a graphics and design app, maybe it's a health and fitness app, right? So the way I would do it is, I would first niche it down and see what players in the same space are doing. So if I'm building a video or photo editor, then clearly I would check apps that play in the same space, because clearly a health app has different dynamic. For example, many health apps have onboarding steps that are 100 onboarding steps, 150 onboarding steps. They have super long onboarding steps. And I'm not saying that they are not relevant. Sometimes they are interesting experiments, because, the world is your oyster and you can always try things. But to get an immediate, if you told me you have only 5 minutes and you have to come up with an onboarding idea and paywall idea, I would immediately go to like filter. No, if I have already an app, I would go to the category, go to my category, and start immediately checking. Okay, these are the players, have a good idea of how many we have. For example, here you can see we have 172 players in our database for this, and I will start to look for patterns, look for interesting things. I would open up a Figma, and then I would start looking at things that pique my eye, that pique my interest. I would like start to study them and say, okay, this app is doing this, and I would copy and bring it to Figma, for example, and then I would create some sort of like mosaic, some sort of puzzle that I'm like doesn't have perfect shape at the beginning, but with refinement and iteration, it will become a clearer and clearer idea. That's how I would do it. I know that there are some apps that these days, especially like just go ahead and clone other apps. This is not what I necessarily recommend. I like to see apps that come up with something new. And the best way is to take inspiration from multiple players and then come up with like your own angles, your own value prop, and your own way of doing things. So that would be one. If I did not, if I Instead, if I didn't have any app yet, or I need, let's say I have already apps that I've already optimized, or I don't want to optimize for whatever reason, one interesting thing, if you are already someone who's using a Screensdesign, is I was like looking yesterday at the new apps that we have added, and it's so interesting to see how many of these apps are fresh into the industry, and you can filter them by sort. Recently added, newest, for example, and you can see who are some of the new apps the fresh apps that we have added. The same way, I believe there is a filter here for app release date, and you can see, for example, the last 3 months, and you can select the apps that have been released only in the last 3 months, for example.
Makes sense. So
Yeah,
then basically you are looking for the application in your industry, looking through multiple onboarding flows and looking what is catching your attention and
yeah,
creating some kind of mood board and looking, okay, what you will
yeah,
include.
beautiful.
Yeah. But
This is, yeah, I would
what
say
will be what will be the must-have thing and maybe must-avoid thing? Because when you copy other examples without understanding why it works and so on, you can copy all mistakes as well, right?
Yeah,
Maybe you would
absolutely.
like to highlight something, what is good, what is bad.
Absolutely. So this is where I believe a couple of things play out. Number one, you can see, for example, the apps that are already established players with revenue, and you can see what are the big players in the industry doing. And those players are usually have very good teams, and they have optimized onboardings and Paywall as well. So this some sort of gives you already a level of, okay, many of these things that these guys are doing are probably working. At the end of the day, Ivars, it's always your bet, because you do not have the mixed panel of these people, or the amplitude of these people, or the firebase of these people, right? You have access to which players are making how much money. For example, this app is making 150,000, and I already see that the moment that you log in, it's very clear the value proposition, right? Capture your thoughts. Okay, this is like a half, I would say, dodgy app, but you can see how from the design, and that's what I speak with a lot of people who contact us, it's the intersection between very good design and very good marketing. So you cannot only have either of the two these days, in my opinion. You need to have both. Very clear design now. Uh, let alone what kind of app is this, but as you can see, the design is clear, it's compelling, and the copy as well puts you in the position of reading it. I feel that so many times, as you can see also this Paywall, you have the switcher, which is one of the options that we see in the industry that many times is being used, and it's an interesting one. You have the Apple style switcher, where they allow you to enable the free trial, and the user feels he has control over it, and hence it makes you it makes trust the app more, and that can lead to higher conversion rates. Now, what is very important is that I want to say that from the mood board and from the studying and the inspiration, you want to create a mood board, and then you want to come up with your own experiment, because at the end of the day, the app is in one category. It's your app, and it's your app playing against other apps, and it depends on where you're, for example, targeting your app at. So it's your bet, and you need to also then have the mix panel or whatever you're using for A/B testing in order to understand, okay, I tried test A and it worked like that, and I tried test B and it worked like that. And clearly then you can make it more and more refined based on
Makes sense,
where
yeah.
you are with the level of MRR, with downloads. Some apps like Duolingo or those players, they they use so much testing, but I would argue that many of the wins can be had with already very simple testing, very simple A/B testing. So it's half science, half art. Whenever someone asks me, like, what is something that is 100% working here, Alex? And I say, look at the players who are doing very good revenue. For example, you can go here, select XXL, and for example, select the apps that have released in the not necessarily in the past days, but maybe that we have added to the dashboard in order to make it a little bit more fresh, maybe, or maybe revenue per install is also another one. But you will see apps like Kalei, which these days are dominating the conversation because they are doing things
And
really
here
well.
is different approach with app that voice recording application that you were showing before, and this Kali application. What I saw, for example, that previous application that we had, it was basically kind of explaining what are benefits, but Kali application kind of starting to ask you, okay, add your weight, add your this, and those are two different approaches between those two screen flows that we saw. One was more like explaining benefits, and this one is immediately kind of getting user in and asking to use the application. So what is the best approach? Do you know?
The best approach, it depends on your niche, I would argue, in a way, because that's why at first I said that depending on your category, if you gave me only 5 minutes and a gun to my head, I would immediately go select the category and see what players in the category are doing. Because indeed, the psychology of the user changes drastically based on what type of app the user is downloading and who the user is, right? So it's normal that these type of apps in the fitness category, it is definitely one trend that you are spotting correctly, Ivars, that they ask you, who are you, what's your weight? And they do that in order to do two things. Number one, personalize your plan, or pretend that they are personalizing your plan. Maybe they are really. And number one is number two or number one, whatever it was, is putting you in front of the issue that you have, that you might have. But maybe in the case of health and fitness, maybe you don't want to tell it to yourself that you need to change your diet or start a new regimen, While with an app like I was checking before, you already know your problem. You don't have any psychological wall that the app needs to remind you of in the onboarding, and that's why as well the presentation is different, or and it also depends on the user they're targeting, because these type of utility apps, I was looking before at one app that we just added, and it had like, it's crazy if I show it to you. Let's reset all, and then let's do sort recently added, I believe it was here. And you will see how some of these utility apps, it was here. Yeah. Water eject speaker cleaner. You can see what kind of niche is that. When the water goes inside your phone and you need to eject it. And this app claims, I'm not sure if it's true. Maybe it is. I don't know. With the power of frequency to actually push out water from your phone. It's quite crazy. It immediately solves the problem, and it's not a problem that you need to be reminded of, because you have it and you are in a rush to fix it. While with a health app, sometimes you need to, slowly build up the quiz with the user in order for the user to realize, okay, this is something I need. While it's here, your phone is maybe not working so well, and you need to work it back to clean it up real quick.
Yeah, you need to charge it as up, and phone is saying, oh, it is kind of, you can't use charger because it's wet. Yeah,
maybe.
And then
Exactly. The psychology is vastly different there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, those different approaches. Yeah, I implemented this onboarding flow in one of my applications, which is in fitness niche with this kind of
Hmm.
already involving user in the process. And I saw actually that my trials are kind of going up significantly. The difference is quite
Interesting.
big. Yeah. And yeah, question about paywall. I see that most of them onboarding flows have basically paywall at the end.
Yeah.
That looks like current trend. It's probably kind of must have. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, these days, like our app that we sold even had a hard paywall. We tested it a lot, and we realized we came to the conclusion that we were targeting small business owners, and these people had not an issue at all with having access to all these tools already from the onboarding. Also, because we played it well with the onboarding, we created a very good onboarding that was explaining them why, in order for to be a small business owner these days, you need to have access to good tools for social media in order to expand your presence there. And these people immediately realized it, and we had really high conversion rates from onboarding to paywall. We were having something like install to pay at like 10%. It was like really high. And the from install to activate trial, it was something like 33%. From the activating the trial, from the install to the activation of the trial, it was 33%.
Yeah,
And
quite good. Yeah.
yeah, it was like really good numbers. And these allowed us also to actually exit the app because the acquirer saw that we had these really good numbers, both in terms of conversion rates. The conversion rate was then another 33%, and that's how then you come from install to pay at 10%, which is like really high. And you can see that also from Screensdesign. If you go to sort and you go to revenue per install, for example, and you put XXL, you see the apps that have the highest revenue per install. So some of these apps are very big apps, like for example, MyFitnessPal. That okay, they get really good revenue from back in the day, but these days are not getting too much revenue, not too many downloads, and that's the reason. Some apps are scammy app as well, and some apps are apps that really have really good onboarding. So because clearly the more revenue you have compared to the downloads, it gives you a very clear signal of being able to monetize your app. It's a very strong signal of monetization.
Okay, so it's clear how to look on the onboarding flows. We
Yeah,
see
let's. You
basically
wanted
what to
to check
do.
the paywall, yeah?
Do you know? Do you have one thing or more which you see in onboardings which you would not suggest to include? Some red flags. What looks like bad onboarding? Can you
It's
mention
interesting,
something?
actually. It's interesting, actually, because over here I am trained to see at to look at very good stuff. One thing that I can say for sure is do not ask for information that you feel that you want to hoard, like email, telephone, name, too much. If it's not, if the user feels that it's not actually gonna be useful for him, and you're simply hoarding his information for remarketing purposes and just wasting his time. So I would tell people to make the flow. It is true that health and fitness apps ask you for things, but it's not necessarily personal information like the name. Like the name can work. I mean, this is never a business of hard no's and hard yeses. But what I would say is do not make the onboarding, do not put too much friction in the onboarding by asking, for example, the phone number in a health and fitness app. You can ask for the weight, but you're doing that in order to personalize the plan. So the user feels that there is a reason for existing. Well, if you simply ask and you say, give me your phone, and
Yeah.
there might be an app where the phone is needed, but simply you have to introduce the reason why you're taking the time or you're taking the phone of the user. So I would recommend. I would say that this one is one of the the main issues. What we were doing with our app back in the day was that we were asking for nothing at first in the onboarding flow. Then there was the trial. And once people were activating the trial, that is where we were actually popping up a modal where we were asking for details, and we were saying, in case you change your phone, in case you need special support or something like that, and we were making them because these people already activated the trial, and so that is where we were then asking for some like Google login and information like that, and it made a very, very good improvement, in our process.
That's good to hear that from you as well, because I feel about the same as user of the apps when I am immediately asked to create account when I'm jumping into the application. Oh, I didn't even see what this application doing. You're already asking all this information. And in my own application, I added in onboarding flow, I asked it for name, for personalization, to make those notifications more kind of personal and so on. And I see quite a big drop, something like almost 20% on that screen. Because that second screen in the application, I have to go and remove it. It's huge drop.
And another thing that I would tell people to take a look at is the full process. Sometimes people then what they rush to is to simply like immediately show the paywall, and sometimes this can be a mistake, because the whole result of the onboarding plus paywall is what matters. And you have to be careful there, because sometimes you remove a screen, and yes, I'm not talking about the screens which you correctly say it's dragging down conversion, it's dragging down the flow to the next step. But what I want to say is look at like what matters is activation of trial. So let's say that you have an activation of trial of, let's say, 10% from start to finish, and you make the onboarding flow longer, and the activation to trial becomes 12%, then it means that something you're doing is right. And you have to be careful at looking at always at a single screen versus the whole onboarding flow, because at the end of the day, what puts money into your pocket is from the moment of the install to the trial, and from the trial to the conversion, right? So many things. This is also one mistake that we were doing at the beginning, where we were simply saying, oh, okay, like 1% or 2% of these people are dropping off, but these people would have still not converted from screen to screen, and the whole aggregate other people, the other 98, 99% now convert better. So you always have to keep this into mind when you're also doing these things. This is already at a more advanced level. I don't want to scare people off with like testing and these things and going crazy, but yeah, keep in mind always what's the ultimate goal. And usually it's for subscription apps, it's usually install to activation of the trial, and trial to then paid.
Great. That's really interesting. So maybe let's do in that way, maybe show few more features what screen designs what you will suggest us as indie developers to use, and then we can switch to the questions, to Q&A part, and see what questions we will have to answer and discuss.
Beautiful. Another thing the Screensdesign can help you with is like when you're designing something, and again, we go back to the concept of the mood board. Many times you're losing hours obsessing over what should I put here? I don't know what to put here. And that's why also the search is so useful, because you can simply search something like blue button and it will give you a lot of inspiration that then you can put to Figma. As you can see, this is like a stupid example that I'm making, okay, blue button, but you can use it in so many different scenarios, right? Because you can never get stuck, and your iteration becomes so much faster, because you're putting stuff on the Figma, then you're going to Xcode, and you are iterating on your app so much faster, rather than getting stuck, maybe downloading a couple of apps, but then you take screenshots, you say, what do I do here? What do I do there? This streamlines the process a lot. So search, it's true. Search works for both paywall, for example, like I did before. If you wanna take a look at paywalls, and we have that, but you can also then search for UI elements, and here we have like some like budge button, carousel card, checkbox, date picker, whatever. Date picker, for example, let's say. I want to have some inspiration for some date pickers. So it does not only stop at the onboarding, paywall inspiration, and marketing inspiration, which is like amazingly important, but it also helps you to actually design faster and bring your app to life and iterate much faster, which at the end of the day is also another very important ingredient for success. And another thing is that over here we have the search for any, we have the also the texting side screens. So if you really need like a text that only exists inside a screen, like for example, let's say next, you will be able to search also the exact text with like OCR. Basically, as you can see here, there's next, and this is also another pretty cool feature if you really know what you're looking at. I'm getting into the details since you asked me, Ivars, but I feel that this is also cool. And the search also helps you with a lot of things that you might not have thought about, but that might be useful to search. Like let's say setting areas, for example. But right now, okay. And as you can see, there's so much inspiration that is so much faster than downloading any type of app. We kept it quite simple, to be honest with you. We have the biggest library out there with almost 1,800 apps. I think next week we will reach 1,800 apps. And we have tried to clean up the interface as much as possible in order to make developers' life easier and faster. And over here you have the filtering, so you can filter by a bunch of factors as I've used before. And over here there is the search, like I showed, and then we also have the animation explorer, which allows you to see what you were speaking about a bit, which is looking at the video. You could see how the animation many times were playing out. This is more like for actually like animations. We have how many apps these days are using animation, which add to the value of the app because they make apps much more beautiful. And at some point at the beginning, it's true you want to keep it simple, but after a while, I would argue that something like Duolingo, if you want to grow to higher levels, it's really cool to also incorporate animation that truly add value to the user experience. So. That would be one. And we have a bunch of tools here that you can use. For example, you showed it in the video, the review analytics. Here I have the web onboardings as well. This is an advanced topic for apps that, in my opinion, are already big and they want to go the web onboarding way, which means you do not immediately download the app on the App Store, but you send to a web onboarding. But this is, I would say, something that is for apps that make it already at least more than 100,000 a month or more. And App Store screens, they're completely free to browse, and they're basically what you understand they are. They are the Apple Store screenshots, and you can see them easily here rather than having to go for each app to the App Store. So that's also one.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's I really like. I built an app in last week, and I spent probably 2 days in your app because I was looking
That's awesome, man.
I was looking for
so
timers for screen elements because my approach is I'm basically making up first, kind of rough working but ugly, and then I'm looking how to make it look decent. And then it was really helpful just to jump in, search for user interface elements. I was looking for timers, stuff like that, and and I saved the option to save in your library kind of tool what you
Were
like.
you seeing my screen, by the way?
No, currently I do not see your screen. Currently, you're not sharing.
But before, when I was showing the App Store screenshot, the App Store screens, you were seeing. Okay. Because now I came back and I said, okay, the screen is not sharing. Maybe I spoke for half an hour and people could not see the screen. Okay, that's
we were
cool.
wondering, what he's talking about. No, everything good. We saw well, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, guys, you can just, if you don't want to unmute yourself and talk, you can just write questions in the chat, and we can stay around for some Q&A part. And
Yeah.
I can keep talking about this topic forever, but I would like to give a chance to everyone else to ask
Beautiful,
questions.
man.